Maya froze in the doorway, her psychology textbook slipping from her hands as she watched their new roommate Sophia rifling through Emma's desk drawer with practiced precision. The soft click of the lock had masked Maya's entrance, and now she stood paralyzed, watching this stranger who had arrived just 3 days ago with a mysterious mid-semester transfer violate their trust so casually. Sophia's fingers moved through Emma's belongings like a pianist playing a familiar piece. She extracted a small leather journal, photographed several pages with her phone, then replaced everything exactly as it had been. The entire operation took less than 2 minutes, executed with the kind of efficiency that spoke of experience. When Sophia finally turned around, she didn't startle or scramble for excuses. Instead, she smiled that same serene smile she'd worn since arriving at Hartwell University, as if being caught red-handed was just another Tuesday afternoon occurrence. "Oh, Maya," she said softly, her voice carrying that slight accent they couldn't quite place. Sometimes it sounded Eastern European, other times vaguely British. "You're back early from Professor Chen's lecture." Maya's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. Part of her wanted to scream, to demand explanations, to immediately call campus security. But something in Sophia's calm demeanor froze her. This wasn't the behavior of someone caught doing something wrong. This was the behavior of someone who had calculated this exact scenario. "What were you doing in Emma's things?" Maya finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Sophia tilted her head, studying Maya with those unsettling gray eyes that seemed to catalog every micro-expression. "I was looking for a pen," she said simply. "Mine ran out during my chemistry notes." The lie was so smooth, so reasonable, that Maya almost believed it. Almost. But she'd seen the photographing, the careful replacement of items. This wasn't about borrowing a pen. "There are pens on your desk," Maya pointed out, surprised by her own boldness. "Those are special pens," Sophia replied without missing a beat, "for my chemistry formulas. I needed a regular ballpoint for my literature notes." Emma's desk drawer didn't contain any pens. Maya knew this, because Emma was notorious for losing them and constantly borrowing theirs. But pointing this out would reveal that Maya knew the contents of her roommate's private space, which felt like an admission of snooping herself. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken accusations and careful calculations. Sophia moved to her own desk and sat down, opening a pristine notebook filled with handwriting so perfect it looked printed. She began writing as if nothing had happened, as if Maya wasn't still standing in the doorway wrestling with what she'd witnessed. Maya finally entered the room properly, closing the door behind her with hands that trembled slightly. She retrieved her fallen textbook and sat on her bed, pretending to read while stealing glances at their enigmatic third roommate. Sophia had appeared in their lives like a perfectly crafted insertion. The housing office had called 3 days ago a transfer student needed immediate placement, and their empty third bed made them the obvious choice. No one questioned why someone would transfer mid-semester, especially to a school like Hartwell, which wasn't exactly known for its academic prestige. She'd arrived with 2 small suitcases and a story about family circumstances requiring a school. Changed. Emma, ever the optimist, had welcomed her warmly. Maya had been more cautious, sensing something off about their new roommates to perfect composure and carefully vague explanations. Now, watching Sophia write with mechanical precision, Maya wondered what other lies they'd already been told, what other boundaries had been crossed while she and Emma were in class, trusting their belongings to someone they'd known for less than a week. The afternoon sun slanted through their window, casting long shadows across the small dorm room. Maya tried to focus on her psychology reading, but the words blurred together. Instead, she found herself analyzing Sophia's behavior through the lens of her coursework, the calculated responses, the lack of emotional reaction to being caught, the seamless transition back to normalcy. When Emma burst through the door an hour later, bubbling with excitement about her art history seminar, Maya caught Sophia's quick glance toward Emma's desk. There was something almost possessive in that look, as if Sophia was checking on property she considered her own. "How was everyone's afternoon?" Emma asked cheerfully, dumping her paint-stained messenger bag on her bed. "Quiet," Sophia replied, not looking up from her notes. "Just studying." Maya met Sophia's eyes briefly over Emma's head. The message was clear. This would remain their secret. But Maya was beginning to understand that with Sophia, secrets were currency, and she had no idea what price they might eventually be asked to pay. 3 weeks after the desk incident, Maya had documented 17 anomalies in a notebook she kept hidden in her pillowcase. Missing earrings that reappeared in different locations, their shared printer running out of ink despite minimal use, Emma's laptop battery mysteriously draining overnight. Most disturbing were the emails Emma had mentioned receiving strange messages from addresses she didn't recognize, cryptic sentences that made no sense. Maya had started paying attention to patterns. Sophia never seemed to sleep, her bed barely disturbed in the mornings. She claimed to be a chemistry major, but Maya had never seen her carry science textbooks, only that same pristine notebook filled with indecipherable writing. And there were the phone calls always taken outside the room, always in that shifting accent that seemed to change based on who was listening. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening when Emma left for her weekly pottery class. Maya was pretending to study when Sophia's phone buzzed with a text. The reaction was instantaneous and telling. Sophia's carefully maintained composure cracked for just a moment, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. "I have to go," Sophia announced abruptly, grabbing her jacket. "Everything okay?" Maya asked, genuinely concerned despite her growing suspicions. Sophia paused at the door, and for a moment, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "My situation is complicated," she said finally. "More complicated than I can explain." After Sophia left, Maya made a decision that would have horrified her conflict-avoidant past self. She approached Sophia's desk, her heart hammering against her ribs. If Sophia could invade their privacy, turnabout seemed fair. Sophia's belongings revealed a carefully constructed facade. The textbooks were props, chemistry texts with uncracked spines and no highlighting. The notebook, however, was genuine. Maya photographed several pages, her hands shaking as she worked. The writing wasn't notes, it was observations, detailed behavioral analysis of her and Emma, their schedules, their habits, their vulnerabilities. One entry made Maya's blood run cold. Increasingly isolated from family since freshman year. Recent breakup with high school boyfriend. Seeking validation and connection. Excellent candidate for emotional manipulation. More suspicious, but struggles with confrontation. Can be managed through guilt and gradual boundary erosion. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Emma, running late. Stopping for coffee with Jake from art class. Back by 10, Jake. Maya had never heard of Jake, and Emma told her everything. Unless Emma had started keeping secrets too, which, given Sophia's documented manipulation tactics, seemed terrifyingly possible. When Sophia returned an hour later, Maya was waiting. She'd spent the time researching, using her laptop to search for any trace of Sophia Martinez, the name on their housing paperwork. What she'd found was disturbing. No social media presence, no high school records, no digital footprint before 3 months ago. "We need to talk," Maya said as Sophia entered. Sophia assessed the situation immediately, her gaze moving to her desk, noting the slight disarray Maya hadn't been able to completely hide. Instead of anger or defensiveness, she looked almost relieved. "I wondered when you'd finally look," Sophia said, sitting on her bed with that same unnatural calm. "You're more perceptive than your psychological profile suggested." "My psychological profile?" Maya's voice rose despite her attempts to stay controlled. "Everyone has one," Sophia replied matter-of-factly. "It's just a matter of whether it's formal or informal, conscious or subconscious." "Who are you really?" Maya demanded. "And don't tell me you're a transfer student." "I know that's not true." Sophia was quiet for a long moment, studying her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice had lost its careful modulation, revealing something raw and exhausted underneath. "I'm 17 years old," she said finally. "My real name is Sophia Petrov, and I've been in witness protection for 3 years. The people I'm hiding from found my last placement 2 months ago." Maya felt the room tilt slightly. "Witness protection. My father worked for some very bad people," Sophia continued, her accent now clearly Eastern European. "When he tried to leave, they killed him and my mother. I saw it happen." I've been testifying in a federal case that's been dragging on for years, and apparently, someone in the system has been leaking information about my whereabouts. So you're using us, Maya said, pieces clicking into place. Our dorm, our identities, our routines. You're using us as cover. Sophia nodded. The plan was to blend in, be invisible, finish high school through the university's dual enrollment program while the marshals worked on a more permanent solution. But you and Emma, she paused, something like genuine emotion crossing her face. You were both so kind. It's been a long time since anyone was just kind to me without wanting something in return. Maya thought about the notebook, the behavioral analysis. But you were studying us, manipulating us, old habits, Sophia admitted. When your survival depends on reading people, controlling situations, you don't just turn it off, even when you want to. She looked up at Maya with those unsettling gray eyes, and now Maya could see the exhaustion, the fear, the loneliness that had been carefully hidden. I never meant for it to go this far. I was supposed to be moved again weeks ago, but something went wrong with the arrangements. Emma's key turned in the lock, and both girls fell silent. Emma entered chattering about her coffee date, but stopped when she noticed the tension in the room. What's going on? She asked. Looking between them, Maya looked at Sophia, seeing not a mysterious threat, but a terrified teenager trying to survive circumstances no one should have to endure. But she also thought about the manipulation, the lies, the violation of their trust and privacy. The weight of the secret settled between them like a living thing. And Maya realized that knowing the truth was only the beginning of their real problems. Emma's face cycled through confusion, hurt, and finally, a strange kind of understanding as Sophia finished explaining her situation. The three girls sat in a triangle on the small dorm room floor, the weight of federal crimes and witness protection making their college concerns feel suddenly trivial. So when I told you about my family problems, about feeling disconnected from everyone back home, Emma said slowly, you were taking notes, literally. Sophia nodded, unable to meet Emma's eyes. I was taught to gather information automatically. About everyone. It's not, she struggled for words. It's not personal, it's survival. But it is personal, Maya interjected. You made it personal. When you decided to stay here, to involve us without our consent. We're not just your cover story anymore, we're accessories. The room fell silent except for the distant sound of music from down the hall. Emma twisted her paint-stained fingers together, processing everything she'd learned. Sophia sat with military straight posture, but Maya could see the teenager underneath the careful training scared, alone, and desperately hoping for acceptance. The marshals lost contact with me 4 days ago, Sophia continued. Something's compromised in the system. My handler was supposed to move me to a new location, but he never showed up for our meeting. I don't know if he's dead, missing, or if he's the leak. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. So you're not just lying to us about who you are, you're potentially putting us in actual danger. I never meant for it to happen this way, Sophia said, her voice cracking for the first time since they'd known her. I was supposed to be gone before anyone got close enough to care, before I started caring. Emma looked up sharply. You care about us? Of course I care. Sophia's voice was barely above a whisper. Do you know what it's like to live for 3 years without anyone knowing your real name, without anyone seeing who you actually are? I've been so many different people, told so many stories, that sometimes I forget which parts of me are real anymore. Maya watched Emma's expression soften, recognizing the same empathy that had drawn Emma to wounded animals and struggling classmates throughout their friendship. But Maya forced herself to think beyond the emotional appeal. Caring doesn't erase the manipulation, Maya said firmly, or the danger you've put us in. Those people who killed your parents, if they find you here, what happens to us? Sophia's composure finally cracked completely. Tears began falling silently down her face, and she looked like what she was, a 17-year-old girl carrying an impossible burden. I know, she whispered. I know I've been selfish. I know I should have left the moment the marshals lost contact. But I was so tired of running, so tired of being alone. And you did. She looked at both of them. You made me remember what it felt like to be a normal person, to have friends, to matter to someone for reasons that had nothing to do with what I witnessed or what I know. Emma reached out instinctively, taking Sophia's hand. Maya watched her best friend's face and recognized the decision being made. Emma was choosing compassion over caution, connection over safety. "What do you need?" Emma asked simply. Sophia looked stunned by the question. "I don't know anymore. The protocols I was taught assume I have handler support. I'm supposed to run, disappear, become someone else entirely. But I can't access the resources I need without making contact with the Marshal Service. And I don't know who I can trust there anymore." Maya found herself at a crossroads that felt larger than their small dorm room. Everything in her, psychology, training, screamed warnings about manipulation, trauma bonding, and the dangers of getting involved in situations beyond their understanding. But she also recognized something else: genuine human need, and the rare opportunity to choose kindness in the face of complexity. "There's a fourth option," Maya said slowly. "We help you figure out how to get back in touch with someone trustworthy in witness protection. But we do it smart, and we do it with full transparency. No more lies, no more manipulation. We're partners in this, or we're nothing." Sophia stared at her in amazement. "You do that after everything I've done?" "We'd do that because of everything you've survived," Emma corrected. "But Maya's right. Complete honesty from here forward. And if we're taking this risk, we need to know everything." Sophia nodded frantically. "Everything, I promise. My real story. The case details I can share, the skills they taught me, the resources I still have access to. All of it." Maya looked at Emma, seeing her own mixture of fear and determination reflected in her friend's face. They were college sophomores, about to become involved in federal witness protection and organized crime. It was terrifying and probably stupid, and definitely not what they'd signed up for when they'd requested a third roommate. But it was also a chance to be part of something that mattered, to help someone who desperately needed help, and to discover what they were capable of when pushed beyond their comfort zones. "Then we start now," Maya said, "with everything." As Sophia began to tell them her real story, the whole truth, this time Maya realized that their small dorm room had become something unexpected. A safe house, a command center, and the birthplace of the most unlikely alliance any of them could have imagined. The question wasn't whether they were making the right choice. The question was whether they were strong enough to see it through, and what they would discover about themselves in the process. Question for reflection: when someone enters your life through deception but reveals genuine vulnerability and need, how do you balance compassion with self-preservation? Should Maya and Emma trust Sophia despite her manipulation? Or does caring about someone require accepting the risks they bring into your life? What would you have chosen in their position? And what does that choice say about your own values?